Welcome to Brew Builds, your place for DIY home improvements. I'm Paul. Today I'll be replacing this light fixture with two new vanities. Let me get the power turned off and get to this. Trying to figure out how to get this cover off. There we go. Alright. So it looks like a screw there and a screw there.
Tools and items needed: a cordless drill driver, a hole saw, a 1/2-inch spade drill bit, some screwdrivers and pliers, a hammer, a multi-tool, wire cutters and strippers, a utility knife, 14-gauge Romex wire, wire nuts, receptacle boxes, joint compound, drywall joint knife, texture spray, matching paint, paint roller or brush, and new light fixtures. I'll take the screw out first, then twist off the wire nuts and disconnect the wires. Make sure the power is off at the circuit breaker. The black wires are the hot or load wire. These are the ones that can shock you. I'll put the wire nut back on just for added protection. The white wires are the neutral wire and the bare copper wire is the ground wire. The other wires you see are coming off the ballast for the fluorescent bulbs. Now I'll take out the last screw. There's a screw that holds the ground wire, so I need to remove that, and then the light should come off. I need to take the wire nuts back off to get the wires through the holes. I can't believe this was installed with just the wire poking through the drywall. This is not the proper way to connect a light fixture. On the brew scale, technical ability, I rate between a novice and an expert. Electrical work can be a bit intimidating. Physical ability, I rate as difficult, mostly because I did some of the work standing on the bathroom sink.
Alright, so I bought two of these round wall lamp boxes, and I'll be mounting them over each sink. My challenge is I need to be able to get the wire from one side to the other side, doing the least amount of damage to the drywall there.
Well, I thought I knew where the studs were.
Alright, so here's the new light fixture. So it will attach to this box with that plate there. And I'm going to want to mount it above the sink. My wife did point out that you kind of want to make sure the mirror lights are as low as possible. That way you get better light on your face when you're doing makeup. Something I don't think about. Alright, let's cut some holes. So when I was looking for boxes to do this with, this is a box that works when you just cut a hole in the drywall and then you can mount it without needing screws or attaching it to the stud. Then I saw these, and they kind of work the same way, where you just cut a 3.5-inch hole and you push it in, and then tightening these screws will hold it in place. So I'm going to mount the lamp about 1 inch above the mirror. That means the center of my hole needs to be at 3 1/4 above the mirror. So there's a stud about here. And a stud about here. So I'm gonna get this hole drilled first. And then hopefully with a long bit, be able to drill through that stud.
The sink center is about 12 inches from the edge of the mirror. So right about there. You want to be extra careful when drilling into drywall because you really never know what is directly behind it. There could be wires, pipes, or wood, so take it slow and easy. Just go deep enough to cut out the piece of drywall. I'm going to add this junction box here, that way I can split off the wires to the two lights. I need to cut a hole large enough so I can drill into the studs to get the wires through. This stud here actually had a hole in it already, which I fed the wire through. I should be able to grab the wire from this hole and then feed another wire to the other electrical box. So I'll mark where I want to cut the hole. I'll make one edge directly over the stud. That way I'll have some wood to reattach the drywall piece that was cut out. Now, I like to do rounded corners when making a cut in drywall that won't be supported by a stud. Rounded corners just seem stronger and easier to blend than square corners. Whenever I've noticed a patch job, it's usually because I see a 90-degree corner.
Alright, so I had to cut out a whole lot more than I was expecting or wanting to do in the drywall. There was a bunch of stuff in here that I kept on hitting. So I just decided, let's just cut a big chunk out and be done with it. So now I can drill some holes to get the wires passed through to there. And then I'll put this junction box here. Whoever installed this actually put the wire on the outside of this 2x4, which is a big no-no. So I'm gonna do this a bit more proper.
Use a hammer and an old screwdriver to break out the tabs in the junction box. Just note that there are some tabs that are bigger, so make sure you break out the proper size. Once you get them bent out, just break it off with your hands or a pair of pliers. Then add the strain relief for the Romex wire. Tighten it with a screwdriver or pliers, making sure that the screws are accessible to tighten after you insert the wire. Once you have the box ready, screw it into a stud. Make sure to set it back far enough so it doesn't interfere with the drywall. Now I'll cut the feed wire to length, leaving about 6 inches or 15 centimeters once it's inside the box. Don't cut your wires too short. I'm using a 1/2 inch wood spade drill bit to make the holes for the wires. Keep the holes 1 1/4 inch or 32 millimeters away from the edge. That way a standard drywall screw won't hit the wire. Start feeding the wires through the hole, then into the junction box using the strain relief. Leave 6 inches of wire inside the box. To remove the protective sheathing from the Romex wire, I bend the wire slightly about 3 to 4 inches or 10 centimeters away from the end. Then with a utility knife, score the wire on the outside of the bend. Be careful not to go too deep that you cut the insulation of the wire itself. Once you have that small slice, then pull on the sheathing and it should rip off, exposing the wires. These plastic electrical boxes have built-in strain reliefs. The plastic clamps will pinch the cable if you attempt to pull on the wire. I had some 12 gauge wire already, so it's a bit tight on these boxes compared to using 14 gauge wire. But just keep working at it and you'll get the wire through. Once the wire is through, place the electrical box in the hole that you cut in the drywall. Now, how these boxes work is when you push them into the hole, the metal brackets on the sides will push out into the wall cavity. Then when you tighten the screws in the back, you are moving the metal brackets towards the drywall, pinching the drywall between the front plastic flange and the metal brackets. The trick is to make sure you get the metal brackets inside the wall before tightening the screws. Also, once these brackets push past the drywall and open up, it's very challenging to get this box out. Alright, let's get these wires connected together. So you need to strip about a 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch or 18 millimeters of the insulation off the wires before putting on the wire nut. Group the wires together like the black ones and then twist them together using some pliers. Then put on the proper size wire nut, twisting it until it stops. The nut should go on far enough to cover any exposed copper wire. Once you have that nut tight, pull on each wire individually to make sure it does not come out of the wire nut. Right, let's line up the next set of wires, which will be the white or the neutral. Twist them together using a pair of pliers and then we'll put the wire nut on. Twist the wire nut on all the way until it stops, making sure you don't see any exposed copper. Then pull on each wire individually, making sure that it doesn't come out. Alright, let's do the same with the ground wires. Once you get those twisted together and the wire nut on, check to make sure they're all tight, then twist and push the wires into the junction box.
Just fold the wires back.
Last thing you need to do is put a cover on. I'm amazed by how many electrical and junction boxes I see that don't have covers on. Let's not be that lazy. These screws were extremely difficult to screw in, and I'm not sure why. Light wire leads are usually more flexible, so twist it around the solid copper wire. Make sure the wire nut grabs on both of the wires, because the wire nut can actually end up pushing the light wire down the copper wire and not actually grab onto it. I'm using the wire nuts that came with the light. Wire nuts are color coded for their size, and most houses you'll be using a red, yellow, or orange wire nut. There is a green screw on the bracket that is for the ground wire. I'll wrap the stranded wire from the light around the solid copper feed wire. Then attach it to the screw and tighten it. Adjust the threaded stud so it comes out of the light housing about 1/4 inch or 7 millimeters. Check it first. Then when you have it at the proper distance, tighten the nut to hold it in place. Attach the light and use the round ball nut to hold the light in place. Make sure you don't pinch any of the wires. I want to test this side, but first I need to take the sheathing off and separate the wires from the other side. Add in a bulb and let's see if it works. Okay, I repeated the process for the second light fixture, adding the bulb and...
Let there be light! Alright. So I just need to put the glass covers on and get 2 more bulbs. I should go buy 4 because we don't have any. And then patch the mess I made and made it hopefully match. Not quite how I wanted to go today, but at least I got these light fixtures and they look a whole lot better than that fluorescent light did. So I got this patched up. I use the quick drying stuff. So I let this dry, then it has some texture that I'll spray on top of it, and then paint it, and hopefully you won't be able to see the patch job. That'll be the goal. Now this one will dry in 5 minutes, but it really stinks a lot. And this one is water-based, so it doesn't stink as much, but it takes a lot longer to dry. I'm in a rush, so I'm using the one that dries in 5 minutes. I much prefer to use this one because it doesn't stink nearly as bad.
This wall has a lot of texture on it. It makes it much easier to hide flaws. When spraying texture, start light and increase if needed. It will start to run if you put it on too thick. Practice on something first if you're unsure how to use it. And just like spraying paint, make passes. Don't just hold the button down and move the can around. With the quick drying type, wipe up the overspray immediately. It dries fast. But since it dries so quickly, you don't have to wait long before you can paint.
So I took this piece to the paint shop and they were able to match it to this. So it's got a little pint to do the painting up there. And as you see, we got it done. Matches pretty good. It looks a whole lot better than it did before the other light fixture, that's for sure. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more DIY projects like this at Brew Builds. Till next time.